Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. If you are able, for those of you who might hear me in the hallway as well, in the foyer, we'll all take our seats and we'll be getting started in just another couple of minutes. We welcome those of you who are joining us from afar on our YouTube channel, and you'll have silence for another couple of minutes. We'll be getting started shortly. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. Ki mimini balemot. Lachein samach libi viagel kevodi. Af bisari yishkon lavetach. Ki lo tazov nafshi lish'ol. לא תיתן חסידך לראות שחת, תודיעני אורחי חיים. שובע שמחות את פניך, נעימות בימינך נצח. I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side. I shall not be moved. Therefore my heart exults and my soul rejoices. My being is secure. For you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful ones see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. These words come to us from the 16th Psalm. We turn to the Psalms at various points in our lives. There are 150 Psalms in the book of Psalms, the book of Tehillim. There are Psalms of history and there are Psalms of war. There are Psalms of praise and there are Psalms of gratitude. And for today, we are given Psalms of comfort. Today we gather to remember and to honor the life of Adele Obodov. If I do it in a decimal point, I think it's 95.96 years. Her birthday would have been another week or two from now, right? 2 weeks from now to her 96th birthday. We gather to remember a very strong woman who had strong opinions and would share them, who had strong love and would share that too, who was a leader in the congregation before Temple Shalom existed, and then a president from 1973 to 1975 of this congregation. Yes, there were people in the room who were not alive then. We have family gathered from, well, frankly, all over the map. Coming in from Israel, coming in from Canada, coming in from East and West Coast. We have friends and neighbors and colleagues joining us as well. And I know that we have at least 4 different time zones watching us on YouTube right now. We begin our service with words of comfort that come from the book of Psalms. They take on extra meaning, these words of comfort, especially knowing the history of our people, when we comfort the soul of one who is a survivor of the Shoah. We send these words of comfort as her soul departs from this world and makes its way to the Olam Haba, to the world to come. And we send these words of comfort to her family and her friends as well. We continue with these words of comfort as we find words from the 144th Psalm. Adonai ma'adam v'te'adehu ben enosh v'tichashvehu. Adam lehevel dama, yamav ketzel over. Baboker yatzitz v'chalaf, le'erev yemolel v'yavesh. Tashev enosh adaka v'tomer. Shuvu b'nei Adam, shuvu. Lu chachmu yashchilu zot. Yavinu la'acharitam. Ki lo bimoto yikach hakol. Lo yered acharav kvodo. Shmartam ur'eh yashar. Ki acharit la'ish shalom. Podeh Adonai nefesh avadav. Velo yeshmu kol hachosim bo. Adonai, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to return to dust, saying, "Return, O mortal creatures." Oh, if we were wise, that we understood where we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted and behold the upright, for they are the ones who shall have peace. Of our Psalms of comfort, the one that has perhaps become the most well-known speaks of God in metaphors of a shepherd and a protector. The words of the 23rd Psalm. Adonai roi lo echsar, bino deshe yirbitzeini, al mei menuchot yenahaleini. Nafshi shovev, yancheni b'magle tzedek, במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי ילך בגיא צל מוות, לא יירא רע, לא יירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי. דשנת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי. ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. God leads me in right paths for the sake of God's name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in God's house forever. In the book of Job, we read of a troubled individual who is trying to find his way in a difficult world. And Job grieves. And he tries to find understanding in a world of things that he doesn't understand, and he tries to find perhaps some comfort in a world of grief. He says, Adonai natan va'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed is God's name. Whenever someone we love dies, I often hear the question from people, and they say, why did she die so young? And in Adele's case, let me ask a different question. Why did she die so young? Because it's not about the numbers on the calendar. It's about the gifts that we bring into the world. And for those people who give a lot of gifts in the world, and we're fortunate that in our world there are many of those people, even when they die at the age of almost 96, we still get to ask the question, why did she die so young? Because she still had more gifts to give. At the beginning of the COVID pandemic, I picked up my phone and I called all the members of Temple Shalom to check up on everyone and see how they were doing. And on the other end of the phone during one of my phone calls was a woman who moved away from Colorado Springs 6 years before I showed up in Colorado Springs. And she interrupts me, I think it was the middle of the second sentence. And she says, Rabbi, you know I don't live in Colorado Springs anymore. I said, yes, my spreadsheet that I'm looking at here says you live in Seattle, Washington. How's the weather? And she says, so why are you calling me? And I said, I'm calling all of the members of the congregation. my spreadsheet says that you're still a member of the congregation. And she says, so you don't mind talking to me even though I don't live in Colorado Springs? I said, are you still a member of the congregation? She said, yes. I said, then I get to talk to you. And she said, well, in that case, okay, I'll talk to you today. And if you'd like, you can call me back. And I understand now from talking to Adele's family, because I never met Adele in person. She left town before I ever came. But I understand from talking to Adele's family that I received a special gift, that I was given permission to call her back at a later date. And so I did. We talked a few times on the phone. She told me a couple of stories of the old times here at Temple Shalom, because if I'm going to be the rabbi here, I should know the old stories too, not just the people that are here now. And she told me, and Janet, I should tell you the story you told me this morning about the gift shop and the money the 1 year in the gift shop. Yeah, she told me that story. I didn't want to tell you earlier, but I'll tell you now. That was one of the stories she shared with me. But I knew that I was on the phone, even though I didn't know what her face looked like. I didn't know her. I knew she had been a president of the temple. I didn't know much else other than that. But just talking to her on the phone, I knew I was talking to somebody very, very special on the phone, because that came across the phone line. I didn't need a picture, and I didn't need a Zoom link. The special came through just on the phone. And so we say, like Job, Adonai Natan, God has given. God gave a soul to this world that has a family of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren with really cool stuffed animals named Taigi. An impact on a congregation that she led as a president and ran the gift shop. I have to tell you, members of Temple Shalom, I'm a little disappointed in your answers, I have to tell you. I asked people, how long did Adele Obodov run the gift shop of Temple Shalom? The answers I got from Temple Shalom members, I got two answers: forever and a long time. Those are terrible answers. Her families told me it was 10 years. You were all wrong. I just want you to know. But in those 10 years, she helped people buy a talit for their child's bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah. She helped people buy kippot. She helped people buy, I was told a story yesterday about somebody wanting to buy a Havdalah set from the temple gift shop, and that her response was, you know, they're very expensive. But she helped people bring more Judaism into their home in a variety of ways, by selling them a thing in the gift shop that it's a Jewish item that they can bring in their home, by being the president of the board and leading the congregation, by being involved in the community, and frankly, by setting a great example by moving to Seattle. How is that a great example? She was preparing for what she knew would come and wanted to make it easier on her family by taking care of some of those preparations in advance, including getting on a plane and moving to where she would be closer to the family, even though she loved being here. A soul that touched so many people. And like Job, we say, Vadonai lakach, and God has taken away. Again, even at the age of almost 96, we say, why now? Why did she suffer at the end? Why were things difficult? And not questions that we really can answer. But we, like Job, can say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. May God's name be praised. Because those are words that we say when we were able to share a gift. I only got a little bit of that gift over the phone. Some of you in the room got that gift over a year or 2 or 10 or 30 or 60 years of knowing her here in Colorado Springs. And her family got that every day as she was the leader of her family. surviving the most horrible terror in the history of humanity. And out of terror, she created joy, a beautiful family of multiple generations, and helped build after having lived through destruction. What an amazing thing to help build after you have lived through destruction. It's a tribute to a very, very strong soul. And so we say, may God's name be blessed, because God gave the world the gift of Adele Obodov. I will share a bit of her story today. Of course, it's impossible to tell a story of almost 96 years in what frankly is a couple of minutes sitting here. But we'll tell the story through a little bit of history and a little bit of family, some anecdotes, and we'll begin by inviting one of Adele's granddaughters, her granddaughter Emmy, to come and share some words with all of us.
Test. No, it's okay. So, I guess I'm just going to mostly read this because I'm not sure I can do it without reading. And sure. I was born on my Oma's birthday, 65 years after she was born. So my mom tells me that she was cross with my mom for being born on her birthday. She didn't want me to have a hard life, but maybe it was because she didn't want to actually share her birthday. Sometimes what she would joke to me and say. And it's certainly true that she faced deep sorrow and incredible challenge in her life, as many of you know. But I have come over the years to feel that I should be fortunate to have a life like hers. It was full. She taught me to be brave. This too shall pass. Or millions have gone through this before you. And that's what she would say when I would tell her about a problem I had. She persevered through adversity. And she created a life that was full of community from you all, of family, and of friends. When my Oma moved to Seattle about 11 years ago, I was like 19, and I started visiting her almost every week, and honestly, it was because I kind of thought that's what grandchildren were supposed to do. But now I see that I was really fortunate. She taught me to knit, which was sometimes what she liked to call knitting, because she was a very prolific knitter. And her knitting creations will outlive her vastly beyond her years. She taught me almost all of the Yiddish that I know, which I'm still horrible at pronouncing, despite her trying to give me the right pronunciations. She gave me advice. She wouldn't let you feel too sorry for yourself, but just when you needed it, she would give you care and gentleness. It's not possible for me to say everything that she gave to me, to us all, but I know that I will always carry her in my memory and in spirit. I think there are some people who come into your life and you are glad to have them. And then there are some who come and leave an etch on your stone. And my Oma was one of those people. She left her mark with many. And I am so grateful to have been her granddaughter and to have been given the opportunity to know her. I will miss her deeply. Thank you.
Now we invite Adele's daughter, Janet, to share some thoughts with us as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming here to celebrate my mother, Adele Obodov, your family member, your friend, your neighbor, your congregant. Thank you. You know, my mom was not one to mince words. So she wouldn't want me to go on and on here or be decomposed. Lack of composure. So I'll try to be quick. She was a survivor. She went through many things in life that were very difficult, but she always objected to be calling a Holocaust survivor. Although she did leave Germany when she was 12 years old and go to England by herself, and she was alone there for 6 years. But she didn't want people to think she had been in the camps. And she was very clear about the fact that we should be strong and courageous, and she was a little bit tough. But there were many more difficult things for her to go through in life too, even though that left its mark. She had to lose many that she loved, most notably her daughter, my oldest sister, Judith, who died at 36. And then last year, my sister's daughter, Cecily, who also passed away at 36. And her husband, who had to go through dementia, and her brother, and so many people that she loved. And she was a breast cancer survivor, and she also had many health issues she had to go through. But she was more than a survivor. She had humor in life, because one of the hard things was during the COVID when she couldn't see anybody for a whole year. And I called her and I was like, Mother, how are you doing? I'm so worried, I'm so worried. And she finally told me, Janet, I'm not going to die now when no one can come to my funeral. But she was a thriver, as was spoken. She had a marriage for so many years. She had her family. She was an active member in this temple. Not only was she the president and all that with the gift shop, she was head of the sisterhood for many years. And with the gift shop, she did an incredible job wanting to have children get a scholarship fund so they could attend religious school here or wherever. And she was a true matriarch in the sense that she brought us all together, and she taught us the importance of love and bonds in family and community. And when she had to move to Seattle, 11 years ago, she didn't want to, but she told me in her pragmatic way, Janet, I'm going to move to Seattle before I have to, so she could set herself up just like she did in life. And she did, and this last year, when she could no longer get up and shower by herself, she didn't want to go on anymore because she didn't want to be a burden. But we told her that was not a burden. We could help her do that, and we could help her all the way to the very end, which me and my daughters did, to pass away the way she wanted to, at home, quietly, with no strangers around or beeping noises or anything to bother her. And she wanted to pass away in her peace. And she did. So we're most grateful for that. One of the greatest things she told me was that, Janet, and she meant this for everybody, the greatest mitzvah you can do in life is to help someone cross over because they can never thank you. And so we thank her today for all that she gave us, and we know that her memory will live on in us. Thank you.
That last little bit of wisdom there about helping, the mitzvah of helping someone die, when you consider that I just learned today that Adele's formal education ended with the 8th grade. That's quite a bit of brilliant, what I would call rabbinic wisdom to share with all of us. So thank you for sharing that thought as well. We'd now like to invite Adele's daughter-in-law, Dorit, to share some thoughts of her own and some of the rest of the family as well.
Our daughter, Smadar, who couldn't come, and our boys, Gilad and Tom, we have something to tell from them. So I began with something that our daughter Smadar wrote to Safta. Safta is a grandmother. Safta, the day before you passed away, we had a conversation. I talked and you listened, or at least I choose to believe so. This has always been our conversation. I talk endlessly and you listened. In our last conversation, I told you that I love you and that I know you love me too. You had the wonderful ability to make me feel loved without words. When I was a small girl and didn't understand a word in English, I know you loved me. I know I was important to you, and I knew I was interesting for you. All without words, you find your special ways. Although we were far away and did not meet much, I always felt close to you, connected to you, and safe. This is you. You loved us without limits. You always listened. You supported. And you have always been there for us. You have found the way to get closer to each and every one of us and have not given up despite the distance, difficulties, and language. In the conversation we had, I want to tell you so many things, but I didn't want to say goodbye yet. I wanted to say thank you for being so meaningful to me and my family. I wanted to thank you for all the smart advice you have given me. I loved the conversation with you. I learned so much from you. You made me think and remembered me and remind me what is really important in life. Today, I can say I admired you and your ability to listen and be there for me, your inner power and the strength that you have. The phenomenal memory, the patience, the ability to give each of us a personal touch and see us really as we are. For 38 years, I have received from you every year a birthday card. You have not missed a single time. Then Elam joined the family, and he too received your cards, and both Hillel and Ben, our grandson, got to receive your special birthday cards. Each time we got excited again. You have a wonderful ability to give me the feeling that I am the most important thing in the world and everything will work out. Even when I believe it's not less. I remember when we were children, every other Saturday, saying nothing, excited by our story, laughing, enjoying hearing us and what's going on. It was important for you to be involved in our life and feel a part of our life. I don't remember you complaining. You are always strong and steadfast. You did not want us to worry about you. Savta, you are very significant to me. And we are not parting today because you have left so much of you in me. You are with me and by my side every day, everywhere, accompanying me in decision at important junction in my life. I learned so much from you. You inspire me, and I feel lucky that you are part of my life and that I have a grandmother like you. Love you very much and forever. Smadar. Dear Adele, our boys Gilad and Tom send their love and grief for you. They have very good memories being together with you and Saba Mori. They were always waiting for the vacation, very excited and happy to spend time together. You were always interesting in talking with them, loved to listen, play, joke, and laugh with them. Through your love and care, you had the ability to connect to them even with the language barrier. To Joel, you were the perfect mother. The mother that he can talk with about everything, both seriously and jokingly. He listened to you and respected you. You believed and trust in his different choices. You two had a common language, sometimes with words and sometimes without, always with a smile and lots of love. For me, we became friends from the first time we met. You always treated me like a daughter. We loved and honored each other and had many wonderful talks, both serious and funny. I love your wisdom and smart advice. I learned from you a lot about giving, being strong and determined, and about confidence, self-confidence. Dear beloved Adele, thank you so much. Toda, for being a mensch with your loving care for each of us, with your big, warm, kind, generous heart, Thank you for being model to us all of a strong, sensitive, caring, kind, intelligent, and determined person, a model of how family should give and take care of each other. You were and are the center of the family. Family was very important to you, and you always made sure that we all come and meet together even though we were far apart. We say amen to your wish that there will be always peace and love among us. You will always be part of us. We'll miss and love you always. Rest in peace, the Obodovs. Thank you.
We've shared some stories today. And as we said before, it's impossible to share all the stories of 96 years of life. But if we continued to tell more stories, those stories would very much, I know, say the same things that we've heard today. That family is important, that community is important, that no matter what difficulties we encounter in life, we can create beautiful things. We can build communities and we can build families. Sometimes we need to do it in a stern way and sometimes a little less stern. You know, to come to England at the age of 12 and then to New York at the age of 18 on your own, that alone is an amazing story. But to move on from those tragedies and create wonderful things and help build wonderful things, even if some of those moments are by chance. I want to share a story that Janet told me about how Adele and Maury met. They met over opening a jar. I know, I didn't believe it was true either, but apparently that's what happened. It was at the Denver JCC, and Adele was in the kitchen with her friend Inga, who was the inspiration for moving to Colorado, and they were trying to open a jar in the kitchen at the JCC, and they couldn't open the jar, and some guy named Maury walked in the kitchen, and he opened the jar. And that was it. That's the whole story, right? There's nothing more to the story. That's the whole story right there. And so even moments of chance create moments that go on for more than just a moment, that go on for decades upon decades. Moments of chance are the things that if we grab onto that moment of chance, then we get to build from that place. And we get to build for others, not just for ourselves. The story that you heard me mention and you heard Janet mention about the gift shop, I guess we should finish the story. 1 year in the gift shop, she made a $10,000 profit. If you don't know what that means, you should go back and look at the place where we now store the paper plates and the plasticware for our bagel brigades. That was the entire gift shop. And in the gift shop that literally was the size of a closet, because it literally is a closet, she made $10,000. And then somehow connected with a man in Denver. Do we know his name or we don't know his name? We don't know his name. And heard that she had raised $10,000 of profit in a gift shop the size of a closet and matched the $10,000 fund, so that year the gift shop didn't make $10,000, it made $20,000. And Adele insisted that that money be placed into a scholarship fund for the religious school here at Temple Shalom, building a lot out of nothing. I mean, let's admit, a closet is nothing. And yet she built a scholarship fund out of nothing. She never went past the 8th grade in school, but shared unbelievable amounts of wisdom with her children, her grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren. She took a talent of being able to work with her hands, with knitting and cross-stitching, and created things that she gave away to family members, to neighbors, to the homeless. Whoever needed a thing that could be knit, she created it. She was very prompt. Adele, we need to apologize. We started your funeral 6 minutes late. I shouldn't say this publicly, but I'm going to blame Emmy and Anna. I mean, we got to admit, you had to go pick up Anna, right? So I'm going to blame, I lovingly blame the two of you, and I'm sure Adele will forgive us. Huh? Yeah, you're forgivable by her. There we go, so we don't have a problem. But she taught being practical. She taught being strong in the face of adversity. She taught the importance of family. She taught the importance of community. And most of that through her actions, more than her words, because we've heard that her words were short often. But if you look at her actions, she taught every one of those lessons on a regular basis. May we all, those who knew her for decades and those who knew her for shorter periods of time, those who only crossed her path but briefly, may we all have the blessing of learning the lessons of Adele Obodov's life. And may we live those lessons in our days. And if we can do so, we will find the way in which we will honor her memory. I'll ask all of you to please rise as we come to the El Male Rachamim prayer. Our prayer of mourning, as with these words we send her soul from the Olam Hazeh le Olam Haba, from this world to the world to come. El Male Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Ashchina, Im Kedoshim Utorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Adele Bat Yosef Ve'ilana, Shelcha Le'olama. Ba'al Rachamim, Yastireha B'seter Knafav Le'olamim, V'yitzroch B'tzorech Chaim, Et Nishmata. Adonai hu nachalata, v'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava, v'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Adele Bat Yosef V'ilana, to Adele Obodov, who has entered her eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. We can all be seated. going to do this with a microphone so the people who are with us on YouTube can hear as well. In ancient times, we wore sackcloth. We put ashes on our bodies in times of mourning. In today's world, we don't buy sackcloth. In today's world, frankly, our clothing's a bit more expensive than it was in ancient times. But we still have this custom of kriya. Kriya means tearing. Today we use a ribbon. Some today still tear their own clothing. It represents the tearing of our heart and the tearing of our soul. When someone we love dies, our heart is torn. We say we have a broken heart. We could also say a torn heart. There's an expression, time heals all wounds. I don't know who made up that expression, but that person was a fool. Because time doesn't heal the wound. We don't want time to heal the wound, because if the wound heals, then it's perfection again, and we don't remember anymore. What time does, it doesn't heal wounds. Time gives us the ability to figure out how we will live with that wound. What kind of spiritual or psychological band-aid we need on that wound. Because our heart is still torn. And that's okay. Because it means we remember. And that tearing of our heart helps us remember. But sometimes when we remember, we don't cry, we laugh, and we smile. Because we remember good times. And those good times make us laugh, and those good times make us smile. But our hearts are still torn inside. And so these very wise rabbis, who, if I can create a new phrase right now, had the wisdom of Adele in ancient times, they realized that we needed some sort of symbol so that when we smile and laugh in our time of mourning, the world still knows that we have a torn heart. And so they said we should tear our clothing, this word kriya. And today we do so with a ribbon. And so Adele's children and grandchildren all have placed a ribbon on their clothing. And I'm going to ask you now to take at the very bottom of it, and you can tear it about halfway or 3/4 of the way up. And as you do, if you'll repeat these words after me, Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Dayan ha'emet. Praised are you, Adonai our God, the judge of truth. Our tradition says that we wear the ribbon for a week during the period of Shiva as a symbol to ourselves and as a symbol to others to remember. The most important way we can remember is to share stories, to learn the lessons of those stories, and then perhaps the most important part is the third part, to live the lessons of those stories to the best of our ability. That's how we remember. We put a headstone in the cemetery. It has a name on it. It has some dates on it. We can let it be one of two things. It can be a rock that sits on a piece of earth, or it can be a reminder of all of the stories, a reminder of all of the lessons, a reminder of how we create our spiritual Band-Aid, our psychological Band-Aid that we put on our torn hearts. That Band-Aid not only helps with healing, but it's kind of a special kind of Band-Aid because it helps with memory as well. When I was a little kid, I remember I got stung by a bee. And my mom put a Band-Aid, after they pulled the stinger out, my mom put a Band-Aid on, it was right above my knee on my leg. My mom put a Band-Aid on it. If there's any doctors or anybody who knows anything, you don't need a Band-Aid for a bee sting. But my mom put the Band-Aid on my knee and told me, you need this so you know that everybody loves you while the pain starts to go away. I think that's what a Band-Aid does often. Sometimes it covers up the wound a little bit, and that's a good thing. But it's also a reminder that someone cared, and they gave you that Band-Aid to put over the wound. And it represents not only a little bit of healing, but a whole lot of love. And so my hope for all of Adele's family, for her friends and community as well, for all of us, is that we find those spiritual and psychological Band-Aids and we use them to know about that gift of love. Yeh zichrona livracha. May her memory always be a blessing. In a few moments, we will make our way to Sons of Israel Cemetery. If you need, I know most of you don't need directions, but for the few of you that do, you'll just take Monument out to Hancock and turn left. You'll go, 6 or 7 minutes. And what's the street right before we turn in? Fountain. Right after Fountain, you'll make a left-hand turn into the cemetery, and you'll see the entrance for Sons of Israel Cemetery at the entrance, also at the entrance to Evergreen Cemetery. I know we have a few casket bearers from the family, and if we wind up being a little short, I'm just going to ask some of our wonderful members of Temple Shalom to jump in with us to help as well. For the rest of us, if we'll all remain in our places until we've been able to make the casket on its way to the funeral coach. For those of you who are joining us on YouTube and on Temple Shalom Live, we will not be broadcasting from the cemetery. We don't have cameras there. And so we thank all of you for being with us today. I'm sure that all of Adele's family would love to hear from you later today or tomorrow or later on in the week. And we thank you that due to the gift of technology, we were able to have all of you join us, and we're glad that we were able to have you from, I know from Israel and Nova Scotia and Seattle and a few other places that I'm probably missing. We have family and friends joining us, so thank you for being with us. And for those of you here, thank you as well. We'll see all of you in just a little bit at Sons of Israel Cemetery. Thank you, everyone.
I just want to say thank you very much to the rabbi. It was a beautiful ceremony, and I'm sure my mother, excuse me, that's what my mother would want. Thank you very much.
This concludes our services here at Temple Shalom. We'll see all of you in about 10 or 15 minutes or so at Sons of Israel Cemetery.